Resident of Hollywood for YouTube, Jules Sains. That is my buddy Allan Gallant. That is my Lord Dymowski. We are here to review The Untouchables, starring Kevin Costner, Sean Connery. Uh, when did you guys first see this? Gordon, you first.
I first saw it when it was in theaters. I remember I was working as an extra to put my way through college, and I was kind of around it was the year after it was filmed, and we were working on Midnight Run, which I'm in the movie, but that's a later episode. And people were talking about how when they were working the Untouchables, usually when you're an extra, you get craft services, which are like bagels and little like cucumber sandwiches with cream
Mhm.
cheese and junk food. And they claimed they had like steaks and like full meals. So I really wanted to see this movie because there were news features about Grand Central Station. They had also done a lot of work in kind of the financial district, and I have photos. So um, be prepared for a slideshow, kids.
Cool.
And so that's when I first saw it, I thought, yeah, this is a Chicago movie. This is definitely a Chicago movie.
Yeah. When did you first see this?
I saw it the same way. I saw it in a movie theater. I can't remember quite where in 1987. But yeah, I remember going to see it because, at the time I was kind of a Connery hound anyway. So I wouldn't see every movie in the movie theater, but I would see selected ones. And this was one of them. And it's really, yeah, it's a sprawl like Chicago on the big screen. It's great to
Hmm.
watch on the big screen. Absolutely.
I think from just a historical significance, they made the right decision to set this and film this in Chicago, to film this in Chicago. Because you're getting into a historical figure like Al Capone, Elliot Ness. Um, but I think Gordon, you had said last time that Connery's character was based on a real life person, correct?
Yes. As I mentioned in our now lost episode,
Yes.
because to be fair, Joel was using Teams, and everyone knows Microsoft Teams sucks rubber donkey lungs.
Yes.
Never
Yes.
used Teams. But Connery's character was based on an actual FBI agent who worked with Elliot Ness. So it's not a case of like, if you're looking for historical accuracy, you're not going to get it here.
Just
If
get
you're
nice
look,
characters, though.
yeah,
Excellent
if
characters.
but if you're looking for, and we can talk about this later, like the encapsulation of the Chicago spirit, this is a movie. I mean, um, it's a great meditation on morality and how far are you willing to go to stop corruption without becoming corrupt. And there's a great power dynamic. And it's all excellently shot. There's some really very well constructed scenes. Um, the screenplay is by David Mamet, who, there are some people who have very strong opinions on his work. I will say, just to be neutral about it, I think he's a better screenwriter than he is a playwright.
Um,
Yeah, Mamet is one of the icons of probably 1980s and 1990s American theater
Hmm.
because of all of the plays that he's written. But I tend to agree with you. I think he has a higher opinion of himself than I do when it comes to that. Although some of his plays are quite interesting.
Hmm.
He has a different approach to language, which works really well in screenplays. It's gritty.
Hmm.
And the vernacular is pretty accurate for particularly this kind of a film. It's really good.
well, with the language, yeah, noir is about light and chess, but it's also about language. So if you're
Mhm.
writing, again, this has crime in it, but it also has that feeling to it, in my opinion. Um, with this movie too, you have a great soundtrack. Morricone scoring.
Hmm.
Um, any movie he's ever done. I mean, when you hear "Once Upon a Time in the West," John Carpenter's thing, the Dollar Trilogy.
He's already made his reputation by the time he does this movie. and
Hmm.
of course it's continued. So yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. He's just such a great composer. And it goes along. I love the scene where the newspaper delivery boys deliver the papers up to Cabot, and you hear the music, and it's after the failed bust, and Cabote's in his bed. What a great scene to go with that music, to go with
Yeah.
that score. And they had so many in this movie. What did you guys think of Morricone's score?
I have to admit, I owned the soundtrack and I listened to it as like background and like I was in college, so I was using it like as background to study and learn for like about 2, 3 years. I mean, it is from that main theme, that dun 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 dun, dun to
Yeah.
the big sweeping orchestral when you see that wide shot of the Chicago Board of Trade building to every moment, this is not music that feels um it's not like, say, a John Williams score where it's big and it captures the mood and the moment. And I think that's one of Morricone's strengths is that he doesn't need to worry about being big and bold. He knows how to be subtle. He knows how to underplay the scene, and the music matches the intensity. It never feels like it's okay, cue the big operatic moment.
Mhm.
It's always pitch perfect.
Yeah, the music has somewhere to go. It's like an actor who uh, understands that you don't start a scene way up here,
Mhm.
intensity wise. You start it down here and you have someplace to go. And he has a flow to his music
Mhm.
that's really good.
Well, what are you guys' maybe top five Morricone scores?
Hmm.
Any of the spaghetti westerns, no doubt. This one.
Yes.
Um, so there's three or four of them right there.
Sorry.
So,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, that's also hard too, because is there such a thing as a bad Marconi score?
no.
It's not like you can say, okay, there's one that's total crap that everyone can agree on, and it's like um
He didn't have a bad day. He never
right.
had a bad day when it came to composing. Yeah.
I would like for number two. I would tie this Untouchables with John Carpenter's The Thing score because it's so
Yeah, I have to go back and check that out. I know it's
it's
really good, but I haven't watched that film in a while.
yeah it's really great. I own the like Blu-ray. It's really great. Obviously my number one is also probably Time in the West.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the spaghetti westerns. I mean, he's done a bunch of stuff. So what Kevin Costner? I think he's still really young in his acting career by the time he does this,
He
right?
is. He hasn't even done Field of Dreams yet. So
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
is a couple of years before that.
this was very early in his career. And
Mhm.
I remember when the reviews came out, they he was criticized as being like a little too bland and like a little flatless. And you have to keep in mind at the time, he was being compared a lot to Jimmy Stewart, very earnest, very straightforward. And he was also adversely compared to Robert Stack, who was in the TV series. And
Yeah.
the TV series is just, for those of you who are just curious, it's just a 60s crime, crime with
It is.
gangsters
It's a
thing.
crime melodrama. Yeah.
Right. But I think in thinking about Costner's performance, if you look at him and Robert De Niro as Al Capone, they're playing against kind of almost against what you would expect because Costner's Nest is going through um, he has the great scene with Sean Connery who says, you want to know what the Chicago, you want to get Capone? Here's how you get Capone. And all throughout, you see him getting angrier and he's taking greater chances, but he doesn't do what I think most leads would do, which is start to go a little histrionic. And, there's always that very nice undercurrent of stability. Whereas Capone, you would think as the criminal, he'd have that, undercurrent of stability, but he starts getting more wound up because you know,
because he's a psychopath.
yeah,
But
that, and because he's
he
getting,
holds the psychopathy well, but he
Mhm.
explodes at different times.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because there's, Mamet uses uses a prize fight metaphor. Capone early on says, "Hey, you know what?" He's talking to the press, and they're saying, "Hey, do you appreciate that Ness is, affecting you?" He says, "Hey, look, the way you know who won a fight, two people enter the ring, one person leaves. That's how you know who won." At the end, when, the juries are switched, and it looks like Capone's going down, and they say he's guilty. Ness approaches him, and he's, is Capone, and Ness keeps saying, um, "You keep fighting till the fight is over." You know,
Yeah.
Capone is like, "Yeah, I'm going to win," whereas Ness is like, "Hey, I'm just going to keep fighting." It's like the scene in Rocky where Rocky's telling Adrian, "I know I'm going to lose this fight. I'm less concerned with winning and more with going the distance."
Yeah.
And I think for Ness, even though, yes, he later says, "Yeah, I broke the law. I became what I beheld, yada, yada, yada." I think there is a sense that he was persist. He didn't think of it necessarily as winning. He thought of it as doing his job, whereas Capone saw it as winning. So there's a really great, interesting little. I think Mamet has a lot of insights into that kind of dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, he draws Capone as a zero-sum guy.
Mhm.
It's like win or else, that's it. But you're right. I think in the energetic counterpoints that these two actors play, because um, you know, De Niro uncorks several times. I mean, violently uncorks. Um, Costner really doesn't. It's like he's got this grim. He starts with this naivete, and then he gets into this grim determination as all of his sort of naive concepts are stripped away, stripped away, stripped away, and it's a nice development. It's a really nice development. Whereas Capone's already fully developed. We know who Capone is, and wisely De Niro plays him that way with various levels within that, but with Ness, we're watching him become something, someone.
Mhm.
To give a little bit of history, um, Al Capone was kicked out of New York by the families because he was too violent. So he
Killed
went,
the guy, and he had to leave town, and they just
yeah,
sent him to Chicago.
yeah, like you got to get out of here, dude.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the thing too. Lucky Luciano did not want violence.
Well, he didn't want people killed in broad daylight in a bar.
Yeah,
That's what happened. So uh, it was way too public. Uh,
yes.
so yeah, and
And
I think you're right, Jewel, that Capone had exhibited a penchant for blowing his top and getting into fights and threatening people in ways that somebody like Luciano probably would prefer he did on the down low. So
yeah, Luciano was not a fan of like because he thought it ruined business.
yeah,
Like
he was
how
right. In
like
New
if
York, it would at that point
yeah.
bad for business.
I think at this time, if memory serves me, and Gordon, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think at this time Walter B. Gibson was writing Gangnam's Doom for The Shadow, which was Al Capone based.
Yeah, it would be about this time because the Shadow, I think, started in 31 as a magazine. I think
Yes.
he was originally on the radio like around 30. And Doc Savage came about in 33. So he would have been, I think around that time, yeah, it would have been around that time when, Gangland's Doom. I don't know precisely what year, but I think it is within that window. And it's interesting too, because if you look at, kind of not just the pop literature context, but the historical context. Prohibition comes about in 1920 because you've always had temperance movements. It's drinking is evil because it means you're wicked and all that stuff. And then you had people in government who are looking like, yeah, maybe because it causes all this crime, And this is, leading and during World War II. So in 1920, they say, okay, it is illegal to manufacture alcohol, except in certain situations. So what you end up with during the 20s is not just the Roaring Twenties where people are getting rich off of bootleg gin, but you also have the rise of organized crime. It moves from the Irish gangs, which are probably more about criminal stuff with a little bit of alcohol thrown in, to people, by the time you get the Untouchables, they're smuggling from other countries, there's distilleries, there's still speakeasies, and I should know I hang out in a lot of them. Um, and so by the time you get to the late 20, and then when the stock market hits, a lot of that money, your wealthy people are kind of hit hard. Um, but sometimes the only way you can make money is illegally. So that's when crime really ramps up.
Yeah.
Um,
And it was a consolidation of power for the mob too. The Depression and the Volstead Act both consolidated
mhm,
their power through that accumulation of enormous wealth.
mhm. And if you look at like pulp literature, for in the 20s, it was mostly, it follows the Johnston Macaulay model. And Johnston Macaulay created Zorro, but he created a series of characters who it was like they had a gas gun, they wore a mask, there was something they had a gimmick. Like one guy, he had a special costume where he could destroy it. Another guy was called the Crimson Clown, which Jewel, if you ever become a professional wrestler, you should use that name. And if you're curious, Delphi Classics, which is a UK company, has you can get a complete ebook of most of Johnston Macaulay's public domain stuff. But
Cool.
it went from like superhero-ish stuff, or what we would consider like Masked Avenger stuff,
Mm.
then turns it melds into the Shadow is kind of like the start of the this is where the trend's going, and it kicks off. So you've got the Shadow and Doc Savage. You also have second tier heroes like the Spider, and which leads to the Black Bat. But you also have like Dan Fowler G-Man, which is basically about an FBI agent who fights gangsters.
Right.
So you've got that shift from this kind of, you know, there are too many rich people, we need to solve that, to there are criminals and gangsters and we got to fight them on their own terms.
Yeah. So you had this whole genre of crime fighting mythology that was
Hmm.
built up in that era of times to
Hmm.
sort of bring the idea of it into the zeitgeist as both as entertainment and also as preparation for reality
Hmm.
at the time as well. So
I think too, in this movie, there's so many great lines. You have that line at church with Connery telling Kevin Costner's Elliot Ness, "Want to get Capone? This is how you get Capone. One of his men pull a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, send one of his to the morgue." I know that's one of Gordon's favorite scenes.
that's very City of Broad Shoulders. That's very
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, and kind of to bring up the same point from the last time we talked, which no one will ever see, um, there is something about the Chicago spirit in that line, because um, I think having lived in, I know people from New York and I've been to New York and LA and I've lived in St. Louis. Um, I think if you look at New Yorkers, they have an attitude. They're all about energy, but they are very direct. They are, and for those watching, if you think I'm stereotyping, drop it in the comments. Also, like, share, subscribe. Get the word out. Help
Mhm.
Jewel. He's a nice guy, but in the mid here, there's always been this. It's not just you're firm, but you're firm and you're pushing back. So there's a meme that's going around now because of current events, but it actually started years ago because I'm going to break a myth, and I'm glad Patrick isn't here because he'll probably want to counter this. But here, this is a secret just between us on screen and you, the viewer. There's no such place as Chicagoland. And what growing up, you would get people who live out in the far suburbs, towns like Naperville, Schaumburg, Downers Grove, who would who will tell you that, hey, Chicago is a it's a vile, corrupt city. It's evil, it's violent, and yet those same people, one will claim they're from Chicago, and it actually became like a joke on Twitter where it was, "Oh, hey, I grew up in Chicago. Oh, what's your neighborhood? Oh, no, I live in Chicago. Okay, fine. Do you live in Brighton Park, Bridgeport, Canaryville? No, I come from Chicago land. Well, where exactly do you come from in Chicago land? Um, Schaumburg, which if you look on the map, kids, Schaumburg, nowhere near Chicago. But back to that, where there's always this kind of, or if something happened in Chicago, you get these people who's like, I moved out of Chicago years ago, and I'm glad. And so, and it's a meme that came out a few years ago, and I think it actually may have come out during COVID, but it's getting a lot of attention, and it's by a design firm here in Chicago. It's basically STFU about Chicago. You don't live here.
You don't live there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'd had to say it to suburbanites who bad lip us, but they'll like, oh, they'll go to Bulls games, they'll go to Cubs games, they'll go to Bears games.
Sure.
It's like, and I think you could appreciate this, Joel, people are up in arms because the Bears are again threatening to go to Arlington Heights. And I'm like, let them, let them. Hey, they're, uh, but there is that kind of, you don't talk to us that way. It's kind of the idea of, what, I've got their back, not yours.
Right.
It's like it's the idea that I'll use this as a metaphor. I decided out of curiosity to figure out when the phrase F around and find out was used. And I learned that it was first used by GIs during World War II. I would not be surprised if the person who actually started if those GIs were Chicagoans,
Mm.
because you do not, we're very practical. We get things done, but we're also very realistic and down to earth about it. And, for those who would try, we've got people downstate who for years are like, oh, Chicago has too much, is too violent and they've got too much power in Springfield. It's like, you know what? STFU about Chicago, you don't live here.
Right.
And it's something, that attitude has helped me get through dealing with tough situations, but I think it's part of who we are, and I think it's part of what this um when Sean Connery's character Malone is telling Costner that, what he's basically saying is, you want to follow the law, but sometimes you're going to have to do extra. Um, and it's kind of like the idea that there's a series called Blake Seven, which is a British show, which is about, basically, you know, evil authoritarian space regime, band of rebels starts disrupting it. It's kind of like the Dirty Dozen in space. And their second season, they set one character who's the more cynical against the leader who's very idealistic. And the leader's like, we're going to overthrow the power and everything else. And the second in command is like, hey, you do know if you're starting a revolution, there are going to be bodies. There's going to be blood. You're going to have to do things that you may not want to do. And I think that's one of the things that Connery makes clear is that if they're going to get Capone, it's not it's not the cliche, oh, I'm not going to kill him because that would make me just as bad as him. It's like you got to fight, you have to fight dirty.
Yeah.
You know,
Put 'em to the wall.
yeah, I mean, the first raid that Costner, he's got the reporter. It turns out they're smuggling Chinese umbrellas. But after that scene, Connery says, hey, we're going to the post office. Well, where are we going to the post office? Well, that's where the booze is. And I think that is such a key scene because it sets up the main internal conflict for Ness, which is how far do I go? So when he
Right.
says the lines, I became what I beheld, for him, he can still calm about it, but he also realizes, hey, he knows where his moral arc is, to the
Right.
point where he's got Malone's the key to his call box and his St. Jude medal. He hands it to Andy Garcia. Andy Garcia's character says, I think Jimmy would have wanted you to have this. And Ness says no. He would have wanted a cop to have it, where he
Yeah.
recognizes, hey, that's not who he is.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great self-reflecting
Hmm.
for me.
Yeah. And then there's a great scene in Grand Central Station.
Yes.
It's the
No,
all-time
in Union
Central.
Station.
Okay,
Grand Central Station's in New York,
that's
Union
right.
Station's in Chicago.
Chicago. It's it's the peak scene in the entire film for me.
Mhm.
It's sort of it brings everything together in that moment.
Okay. And yeah, and the other cool thing is at the time, um, I mean, there's a big deal about that scene being filmed in Union Station. And the cool thing about that whole area where they filmed is there's a scene where the camera looks up and it's like the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
If you're behind the camera, there's a tunnel that goes in, and that's where not only the trains go off, but that's where all the modern stuff is.
Right.
So you don't necessarily know. And it's one of the things that reasons why I love this movie is that it was shot in various there's a lot of 30s style buildings, a lot of Art Deco, and it's like it's some really there's some they really use the hell out of those buildings just to get the right atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. Then a lot of that stuff, of course, does exist. In most of the major cities, you've got stuff from the 20s
Mhm.
and 30s that's still readily available, some even earlier, but to
Yeah.
utilize it that well, that takes a lot of planning.
Hmm. And I even have some photos.
Oh,
So let me, I took these earlier this week, so I'm going to do this very slowly because, okay, so if you can see,
Yes.
this
yes.
is the Board of Trade Center. Okay. And the building on the left, I'm pointing to them on my screen like you all can see it. But if you see those columns,
Yeah.
Yes.
that is, at the very end when Kevin Costner is um, interviewed, everything's finished. He's asked what he's going to do. I'm going to go buy a drink.
Yeah.
It's that building.
Okay.
And if you pull back, you'll see it's literally that one shot. And then if you go around those columns, there's like a tunnel. You go through that tunnel, and it's on the other side of the Board of Trade building. There's a casual reference to a train station on LaSalle Street. That train station is the metro station. It's the light now it's the light rail, and it's a train that goes from downtown all the way southwest. I would have taken a photo, but it's more modern looking.
Mhm.
It's not as photogenic, and I think you'll appreciate. It's also kind of fragrant, so and I'll just
Yeah.
leave that there.
Okay.
So
Cool.
while I stop this, I'm going to, and there's another key um, place that I wanted to highlight. So, okay, so the scene where the the scene where it's early in the movie. It says 209, and it's where they introduce Charles Martin Smith as the accountant.
Yes.
Yes.
This is it. It's a building called the Rookery. And it's like got little shops and things inside, but it's right within that kind of section. It's the city's financial district. So, and it's literally just a row of 30s style buildings. And then I have let me open, there's one more, and it's the interior of the Rookery, just to give a sense of what um this kind of what it would have been like. And so okay, and as you can see, you all can see it's obviously they didn't have a pot belly there. They didn't have a
Sure.
pot belly, but this is the kind of architecture. I mean, I grew up around this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So I have a love for this very Art Deco, very stylistic kind of uh building design. And just for those. I had seen Nick Meyer and there's Stephen Lee. They did some lectures about Sherlock Holmes a couple of nights ago. So past the bottom of the stairs, there's like a little plastic podium, and then there are chairs behind that. So the acoustics are, and even Nick Meyer it said out loud, the acoustics in there are crap, but but this is the kind of thing you could see. And then the chase towards the end, where Billy Drago is thrown off the roof, um, that was filmed around the Civic Opera House, which is just a few blocks north. And the reason I know it's that area is because I'm familiar with the Stoneware. There's a co-working space that has like a little like reception, like dining, patio a few flights up. So, but that's kind of so for those of you watching, I hope you enjoyed those photos because I mean, it's weird for me to like walk when I approach that building when I'm downtown and I would because I'd have to take the metro back to caring for mom. It was really cool and really awesome to just be able to walk past that building casually, just knowing that it's not just a piece of Chicago history, it's a part of movie history.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of films that kind of have been filmed in that area.
That's really cool. Those are some pictures. Um, what this is really a great team up between Connery and Kevin Costner. When I first saw this, I was just coming off of seeing Connery's Bond movies, and so for this was like okay. And Kevin Costner. By the time I'd watched this, Kevin Costner had Field of Dreams. So I saw this like May said, but it was so good. Um, just from a performance standpoint. And I think what brings it home too from a realistic standpoint, because again, there's some fiction in this too, where
It's the
Connor,
great myth. It's the great Chicago myth
Hmm.
of that era. There's definitely a mix of
uh,
fact and fiction that goes on, and it's incredibly interesting. And it's not offensive to history if you know that it's fact and fiction. It's just stories. It's cool stuff.
Yeah, Connery's character getting killed off was such a huge moment. I mean, it's like holy, because it's the catalyst for everything that happens afterwards
It
too.
is. It raises the stakes enormously high. So
Yeah. What did you guys think of that whole sequence?
I
Connery's character.
I thought it was one of the greatest. I had to say fake outs, but the way that De Palma constructed the scene. Um, he had just come off, he had started doing a lot of Hitchcock pastiches. And so he was kind of into his trying to put together solid movies. I mean, this was just only a few years after Scarface,
yeah,
which I'm not a big fan of, but I understand why people like it. But, there's that tracking scene where you look through all the windows, then he comes across the guy with a knife and he's chasing the guy out and he's out and he says, yeah, typical, trying to bring a knife to a gunfight. And then he's surrounded by guys who shoot him. I mean, it
right.
not only, as Allan said, kicks off increases the stakes, but I think what it also does is it makes it clear that um, they are touchable. There's the scene with Del Close, who was one of the founders of Second City. Um, and he plays Alderman John Shea of the 43rd Ward, John O'Shea. I can say that, if he had known 20 years later that there'd be an alderman named Matt O'Shea of the 19th Ward, who I find equally corrupt, but hey, he stood
Hmm.
by while a property management company terminated 126 people's leases
Yeah.
and did nothing. And yes, if you want to debate me, come after me.
Oh,
But
he did the Chicago thing of corruption. He took an envelope. So
well, I would say in the 30s, it's not quite taking an envelope. It's more
no,
like,
it's symbolically taking an
yeah,
envelope.
okay, you were right. But no, where Close is, um, oh, you guys are untouchable. Is that it? Well, that was the whole point, is that the
Right.
reason why they formed it is they wanted men who would not take a bribe and who were kind of plain. Because I actually read the book around the time of the movie, and the book is not really. The book was written towards the end of Ness's life where he needed some money. So there's a lot of, you know, a lot of eh, um I'm trying to there's a lot of it may not be necessarily a straightforward tale.
Embellishment.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is the word. But I think the fact that, Ness turns down the bribe, but and ultimately part of it is that's part of the reason why Ness is successful because he kind of disrupts he figures out what his morality, he knows what his morality is, but he also realizes, hey, I can't just throw an envelope at him.
Right.
And when Connery dies, it's like, hey, it really is the answer to how far are you willing to go to stop Capone?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is an inciting action. Uh,
Hmm.
Probably one of the biggest the biggest one I think in the movie because one of the stars dies for one thing, and that's got to be huge. That's
Hmm.
always huge, especially if he's a protagonist in the movie, which he is. Um, but that's also where it's a torch passing thing too.
Hmm.
It's like you got to go do this now. You have to. I've told you what you can do and how to do it, and now you go and do it.
Yeah. And you can tell that, and I think that torch passing starts when they're in Canada. And, they're trying to get the bookkeeper to talk because, you know, real history kids,
Mm.
Al Capone was put away for money laundering. And if you're
Yeah.
curious about money laundering, look up Breaking Bad nail salon
Yeah.
money laundering. That's
Yes.
the best way I can explain it. Plus
Hmm.
Bob Odenkirk, but back to the Untouchables, where it gets to the point where Connery picks up a dead man, puts a gun in the guy's mouth, and says, "Hey, are you going to talk? Come on, are you going to talk? Are you deaf? One, two, three," and shoots him. And the Mounties like, "Well, hey, uh, it's not the kind of way we would try to get truth. We get someone to work."
Hmm.
And Costner said, and Elliot Ness via Costner says, "Well, you're not from Chicago."
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has at that point it's yeah, the lights have gone off in terms of what and he's committed
Hmm.
to this particular ethos. And it is an ethos because these guys are playing dirty, you gotta play dirty back. So
Hmm.
I also think De Niro's Al Capone is one of the best portrayals I've seen of Capone. So it's
it's
really
very
good.
good. It's very good. And some of the stuff that he does in the movie is pretty close to some things that he was attributed to. So um,
Yeah, I mean,
this the meeting with the baseball bat is like
Hmm.
that's Al Capone. I mean, that's was what he was. He was a he was sort of one of these sort of heroes, folk heroes to certain people because he would lavish the common people on occasion, which was the best PR he could ever do in Chicago. But he was also an incredibly violent, corrupt individual.
uh, he organized the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
He did.
Uh,
Hmm.
Always denied it. Always denied it.
yeah, there are some movies about that too.
Yes, there are.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, one's called the St. Valentine's Day
That's Day
Massacre.
Massacre. Yeah, yeah.
Yep, and he also very famously had a vault that was reputed to have all sorts of treasures, and in a few years earlier, there was a
Yes.
very famous reporter who's now a Fox commentator, whose name I will not repeat, who did a big live opening Al Capone's Vault Festival, and you know what they found? An empty beer bottle.
Yes, that was it.
Yeah, wait till that guy sees what's in my vault. Okay, it just yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I've got a lot of things in my vault, but this is a family podcast, so.
that's right.
um, I mean, Connery's had a lot of movies. Kevin Costner's had a lot of. So where do you guys put this in? I would say both their repertoire, but where would you? So good.
Oh, I mean, it's hard to, Connery has done so, well, they've both done a lot of great movies, but yeah, it's probably top five.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I would say it's also maybe one of their most underrated movies
Yeah.
because I think people look at this as a an action movie, primarily or a crime movie, but it's so much more. And
Mm.
even though I think Costner is one of those actors that people slag on him, but I don't think he's ever really given a bad performance.
No, and he is an everyman type,
Hmm.
and he's pretty low key, pretty realistic from his own point of view. He's consistent. He's
Yeah, and
very
I
good.
mean, yeah, and I know we said this at our last conversation, which thanks to Microsoft Teams, didn't get recorded.
Got
But
flushed
like
down the
one
proverbial
of my
toilet.
favorite scenes, and I hope this was done in one take. It's the Union Station scene where Andy Garcia slides, tosses the revolver to Costner, who picks it up, turns, and fires.
It's pure genius. It's
And
pure
yeah,
genius.
and I know we've talked about this back, but like I get real strong Rio Bravo Western vibes from this movie.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's something that's been done before, but not quite like that. We're going to take this trope and we're going to magnify it. We're going to process it, and we're going to give you something a little different, and it's going to be thrilling to
Hmm.
watch. And that's what De Palma did with that. I really
Yeah.
like this as one of De Palma's best movies for sure. I
Yeah, I
mean,
think this is the one where he went from being Hitchcock pastiche to okay, I'm going to start doing thrillers and be melodramatic
yeah.
to like he kind of figured out okay, this is me as a total filmmaker.
He also learned how to sculpt the bloody violence that he had become known for. He
Mhm.
sculpted it and muted it and presented it in a different way in this film than he does, say, in Scarface or some of those earlier films where I mean, he was known for being, the king of violence at one point in his career. So, and this is balletic, in
Mhm.
terms of the way it's done. It's really refined.
Yeah, yeah, it's really, really good too. That's the thing. Like for me, like, for Costner, I would put Wider because he did a historical job really well. He actually had left the production of Tombstone, the filming of Tombstone, to do his own Wider.
Yes,
Mhm.
His was very, very accurate
it's a
too.
very good film. It's just
Yeah,
Tombstone is a great film.
Tombstone, that is a stone cold
Yeah,
classic.
yeah.
And for
Uh,
those who are wondering, the reason why Jewel it looks kind of ghostly, he's in the nether realm,
yes,
delivering some
yes,
whoop
yeah.
ass to Judah Zachary. Just
He's
letting you all
yes,
know.
yes.
he's in what is referred to as the phantom zone of dark shadows, ghosts,
Hmm.
and
Yes. Well, yes, I'm in many relationships with the afterlife.
yes,
So
Hmm.
there you go. There you go. But yeah, such a great movie. This movie's a 10.
yeah,
With it, thank
absolutely,
you guys.
no argument for
Is there
me.
anything you guys want to add about the movie?
It's just a great progression in especially Costner's career because he's still young and he's got an enormous body of work in front of him. Dances with Wolves and all of that good stuff is waiting for him at this point. Um, it's yeah, it's a benchmark film. It's a gangster film, but it's a morality film, story. It's a Chicago story. It's a whole bunch of different things, and well done on everybody's part.
I would say an underrated Costner movie, other than this, would be Open Range. I've ever seen it really, of
Hmm.
him and Robert,
Yeah,
which he had turned down Kill Bill to direct open range.
That's smart.
Yeah.
I don't think he fit in Kill Bill as well as the cast that was
Yeah, and I think a
finally
movie like
chosen.
Kill Bill would basically bore him to death.
Yeah. It was perfect for the people that were in it. Absolutely. And Tarantino kind of has his cast of characters that he will use certain people over and over again because they understand his style and his camera work and everything else. And Costner, I think, would have been like a fish out of water in a production like
Hmm.
that.
Well, the role he was slated for was the David Carradine's role.
Oh
Yeah, see,
yeah,
that would not have fit
totally
at
different.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally different. He was much, much, much better off letting David Carradine do that. It's perfect.
Yeah. Uh, Me and Butch, we reviewed Open Range here on the channel, and it's like I was like, thank God he turned that down.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, you know, a lot of actors, especially A-listers, turn down stuff they wish they hadn't, or like shrug about it because that would have been great to do. But I don't think this is one of those.
Yeah, I think Costner probably felt, yeah, I dodged a bullet.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't want Uma Thurman coming after me with a sword.
come at me, bro.
um, is there anything you guys want to add before we go?
No, I think it's been said. I think it's and thank you um, for the Chicago history lesson too. Only
Oh,
somebody like
Yes.
you would be able to give that. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so much
Yeah,
for
great.
those pictures and the history. That's awesome.
hmm Well, yeah, this is a Stone Cold classic, so I think we can end here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
Link
agree.
to link to Gordon Dymowski's Amazon page and website's going to be in the description box. Link to Allan Gallant's YouTube channel, Colin Sports After Dark, is going to be in the description box. Goodbye and good night.
Good night, all.
Peace out.